11 sequential analytical techniques. These are designed to help you strip away the noise, all the distractors, in those really complex PMP prompts. We're going to focus on 3 core ideas. Lexical scoping, which is just a fancy way of saying figure out what the question is really asking. Then, temporal positioning, pinpointing where you are in the project timeline. And finally, mindset-based elimination. This is all about filtering out answers that just don't align with PMI's core principles.
Switch between these 2 mindsets in a heartbeat, just based on the context of the question. If you miss the context, you're going to miss the question.
And then they make it even more complicated with this idea of intersectionality. I mean, a scenario is almost never just about one single process, is it? It's always linking things together.
You have to be ready to connect the dots.
Yeah.
Let's take an example. Say you get a question about a new regulatory hurdle on some complex tech project. Okay, so the main process is risk management, right? You're identifying and analyzing this new threat, but your response might mean you have to procure some new safety equipment.
Which triggers procurement management.
Right, and because the contract is now changing, you have to use integrated change control to formally approve that amendment, which then, in turn, updates your cost and schedule baselines. So now you're in cost and schedule management.
So that's one question, linking risk, procurement, change control, and cost management all at once. If you just look at it and think, oh, this is a risk question, you'll miss all the mandatory steps that have to follow.
So the goal, the objective, is crystal clear. You have to stop yourself from being misled by all the irrelevant details, all that noise, and you have to accurately figure out the immediate next logical step in that standardized PMI-approved workflow. It doesn't matter how many domains the question touches on.
Okay, let's start with technique 1. This one directly tackles that feeling of being overwhelmed by these super dense, wordy PMP questions.
Yeah.
The problem is that the question will give you 4 or 5 lines of story. The project size, the industry, past problems, and a lot of it is just there to wear you down.
It is. Most of those sentences are distractors. They give you context, sure, but they rarely have the actual technical problem you need to solve. So the mechanism we use is simple, but it's really powerful. We call it the last sentence first rule. The fancy term is lexical scoping, but all it means is you're scoping the action you need to take based only on the language in that final question.
So walk me through that. What's the very first thing someone should do when they see one of these scenario questions?
You immediately skip the story. Just jump right to the end and read the final query first. This creates an instant mental filter. So if the last sentence asks, what should the project manager do first? Your brain is immediately tuned to look for an analytical documentation type answer. You just filter out all the narrative stress and focus only on the required first step.
I can see how that saves a ton of time. And I'm guessing that filter changes if the question is phrased differently.
Oh, absolutely. Think about what we call the prevention pattern. If the sentence asks, what should the project manager have done to avoid this situation? You know you're looking backward in time. You immediately ignore all the options about solving the current crisis, and your focus shifts entirely to the planning phase, or maybe risk identification. This simple trick stops you from trying to solve a problem when the question is actually about how you should have predicted it.
That makes everything so much cleaner. Let's use the example from our sources, the perfect illustration of stripping away that noise.
Okay, so imagine this scenario. The project is a complex international build. It's 3 months into execution and involves 3 key vendors. Deliverables have been strong, but a sudden labor law change in country X threatens a 15% cost increase, leading to high frustration from the chief financial officer.
Okay, so that's designed to make you panic. You start thinking about the money, about appeasing the CFO.
Exactly. The 15% and the CFO's feelings are noise. So we apply objective isolation. We read the last sentence first. It says, what should the project manager do first to handle this situation? That question forces us to ignore the financial number and the emotional stakeholder. The technical focus becomes, what is the first step when a new external risk event happens?
Okay, so if my options were, say, A, tell the CFO costs are going up, B, update the risk register and analyze the impact, C, schedule a meeting with the legal team, or D, immediately reduce the project scope.
The technical sequence from PMI dictates that even a mandatory law change has to be assessed for its impact on all the project constraints before you take any action. A, C, and D are all actions, so the only correct choice is B, update the risk register and analyze the impact. The core principle here is always analysis before action.
Okay, so once we know the objective, technique 2 says we have to figure out what set of rules we're playing by. You mentioned that choosing a formal change request in an Agile scenario is a fatal error. Why is the methodology so important?
Because the entire rulebook for how you handle change, scope, and communication is completely different. In a pure predictive waterfall world, change is tightly controlled. It's administrative. In Agile, change is welcome, it's iterative. If you don't perform what we call life cycle attribution right away, you're going to pick an administrative step like getting CCB approval that just doesn't even exist in an adaptive world.
So let's lay out the anchor systems. What are the dead giveaways that we're in a predictive linear logic situation?
You're looking for keywords that scream upfront planning and formal control. These are your administrative anchors. Words like WBS, work breakdown structure baseline, phase gate, milestone chart, change control board, or CCB, and the word approved. If you see any of those, you are locked into a predictive environment.
What's the strategy once we see those words?
The strategy has to follow that formal linear sequence. Everything you do has to be tied back to an approved document. If a change affects a baseline, it has to go through the CCB. The emphasis is all on documentation, control, and formal approvals.
All right, now let's flip that. Let's talk about the agile and adaptive trigger system.
Here, you need to shift your whole mindset. You're thinking about velocity, value, and empowering the team. So you're looking for words like backlog, sprint, daily stand-up, product owner, velocity, and retrospective. When you see those, your logic has to immediately shift to servant leadership, communication, and iterative refinement.
So in that world, the formal change requests are replaced by what exactly?
They get replaced by backlog refinement, or prioritization by value. The product owner, not the project manager, is the one who decides what gets built next. And that decision is based on maximizing business value for the customer. Your job as the PM is to facilitate that decision, remove any roadblocks, and protect the team.
Okay, but what about when the question throws us into the deep end, the hybrid spectrum? We know that a lot of modern projects have some parts that are fixed while other parts evolve.
And that's the most challenging situation because you're juggling two different rule sets. The triggers are usually phrases like mixed environment, transition project, or something like fixed budget but flexible scope. So, for example, the software for a new device is being developed using Scrum, which is adaptive, but the final hardware manufacturing has to follow strict predictive contract phases.
So the PM's job isn't to pick one or the other, but to act as a bridge between them.
Exactly. The PM becomes a translator and a tailor. Their main job is to tailor the processes and bridge the reporting gaps. This means knowing how to talk to a fast-moving Agile team and then turn around and talk to predictive executives who still want their traditional status reports. You might have to create a high-level milestone chart for the executives, but derive it from the Agile team's velocity metrics. So, technique 3. This one gets at the core analytical trap the exam loves to set. It's all about confusing the initial analysis step with the ultimate resolution step. To get this right, you have to internalize the sequence. Analyze, then review, then act. PMI really values caution and diligence.
Let's start with that first logic. Why is it so mandatory to analyze and document something before you actually do anything about it?
Because PMI wants project managers to be proactive, not reactive. If you jump straight to an action, what we'll later call a hard verb, you risk solving the wrong problem, or spending money you don't need to, or even creating a whole new problem. The first logic is a test of discipline. It forces you to step back, quantify the situation, and document its impact before you commit the project to a potentially expensive path.
So if a new risk pops up in the middle of a project, what would the right kind of answer look like?
The first action is never going to be schedule overtime. That's an action. Or contact the vendor. Also an action. It's always going to be something like evaluate the impact on the critical path. That's analysis. Or add the risk to the register. That's documentation. You have to assess the size of the problem first. If you don't know if this risk will cause a 1-day delay or a 3-month delay, you can't possibly choose a rational response.
That makes complete sense. The analysis is a mandatory roadblock against making a rash decision. Okay, so let's move to the NEC-XT logic. This assumes the analysis is already done. How do we spot that in the question story?
The language in the prompt will shift. It moves from identifying a problem to confirming its impact. You'll see phrases like, the PM has analyzed the impact, and the critical path is now delayed by 2 weeks. Or maybe, the team confirmed the root cause is equipment failure. The analysis is finished. Now the question is about following the correct process to respond.
And once that analysis is complete, what comes next?
Now you move into the formal sequential process. If the impact is known and it affects a baseline, the next T step is to go to governance. So the answer would be something like, submit a formal change request to the change control board. or if it's a communication issue, inform the relevant stakeholders according to the communication management plan.